so I think I just end up feeling like stuck, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So, let me ask you this. Is there something that you're doing right now that is maybe you wouldn't, that helps you process, but maybe you wouldn't consider a spiritual practice that maybe you ought to?
I think well, it's been fewer the last couple weeks when I go running. I know that's an important thing for me. I know when I get done, the feeling I have is similar most of the time, besides when my leg hurts or something, to that of, honestly, I think come out and done like a counseling session or something like that, where it's almost that just like for at least a minute, like I feel at peace and I'm calm. And the more I thought about that, the more I would try to be like, okay, well maybe if I can like regulate my thoughts on the run to being more of like praying and stuff like that, that would be helpful. And then that took, the first time I tried it, like I think I tried at least every mile, not even every mile, every minute to like redirect. And it was just, I like was laughing at myself, but it's just like I have, this apparently is going to take some work. I think I struggle with like living in the moment with that kind of thing. That just like, however, whatever's happening, God is doing something, and I don't even have to be the one to have the words for it. And that should be an awesome thing in and of itself. It's like I can't turn off in my head, well, what would make this better? Instead of just accepting like what I have and knowing that it is good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, therefore, a good thing to try would be to not be thinking about what the next step is and just be for some time. So even if the processing is still happening, at least it's a present thing versus a thinking of the future thing. I don't know how that would go.
I just, I think I told you before I broke my feet, I did some long distance running. And what I remember about it was that when I concentrated on pace and concentrated on my breathing, and just that, I just felt so aware of the presence of God. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I'm, was particularly praying or stating anything. Mm-hmm. It was just a time for me to be with God. When I was able to just, all I had to do was concentrate on the rhythm of my pace and the rhythm of my breathing. Mm-hmm. And, I do some deep breathing kind of exercises, just deep breathing, and I noticed that when I concentrate on it, it calms me. If I'm feeling a little tense or I have a little pain or something like that, if I concentrate on the breathing, it lessens. And I think it's just, God has to get awfully tired of words directed to God.
Yeah. all day. Yeah.
And so, my experience with the Holy is really sort of trying just to shut up. Mm-hmm. And just be with God. And use my words and thoughts and stuff with the relationships I have out here. I don't know if that's helpful. That worked for me, and it may not work for you.
Sounds really good.
Yeah. So, I don't think a spiritual discipline, has to be kneeling in prayer for 4 hours or whatever. That's my opinion.
Sure.
And you may not agree with it, but that's my opinion. I think that there are opportunities for people to make use of what they're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Just
part
always having to add something.
They're always having to add something.
Makes sense.
Again, that's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But
I appreciate your opinion. I think if I just made the goal to stop trying to add something to those moments, that'd be a really good first step. And then it's like, that's, for whatever reason, I'm not quite there after a certain amount of time, then I can think of adding something else. But I think for living in a time right now where I feel like, the goals are to eat well, to sleep well, to work well, and to take care of myself. And I can do 3 out of 4 of those things.
you're doing better than most of the American population.
Yeah, which is scary. Man. That's true too. Because my thing is I've always wanted to be like, well, if I can get all 4, then I'm doing okay. And there are times where you can't do all 4. So typically the sleep is what gets knocked in exchange, and then when I sleep, it's the exercise that gets cut out. Which would be an issue if the exercise is the typical time that I find to be with God. Then that's, I guess, needs to be raised in a priority in some way. Or at least not ignored as much as it has been. And kind of like trying to find ways to step back into that. So it's helpful being reminded to just stop thinking at times, versus feeling like I have to reflect and process everything in order to get better, whatever that means. So.
Yeah, so if I hear you right, you're sort of self-identifying that maybe you overthink a little bit.
A little bit.
And so, yeah, I think processing and reflecting on things is absolutely, again, essential.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if we're doing that, and to kind of come back to your words, we become anxious about being anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I just need to pull back that a little bit.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I realize I'm anxious. Maybe and I know essentially where it's all come from. You identified the areas quite well where your anxiety is coming from. So the next question is, okay, how can I just improve my functioning 5% through this anxiety? Is it, more exercise, more deep breathing, sort of spiritual practice? Is it getting, an hour more sleep on Saturday night? Is it scheduling sermon writing? I'm going to do research on Monday evening. I'm going to do some general outlines on Tuesday. I'm going to think on Wednesday, Thursday, and on Friday I'm going to spend a couple hours actually writing, and then editing on Saturday, going to bed at a reasonable hour. However, whatever works for you, just to improve a little bit,
5%.
like 5%. And I don't think improvement comes in big chunks. We would like for it to.
Yeah.
but even if it did, I'm not sure it's sustainable.
Mm.
But if you're, you're kind of in an unusual period of multiple stressors that aren't really gonna, completely go away.
Yeah.
So it's how do you manage each one?
Mm.
So for the sake of your functioning, for the sake of ministry, how do you manage those going forward?
Mm.
So, and I think that's important work for all of us.
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in your head and feel like you're the one dealing with all this
Sure
stuff,
is.
and it's, everybody's got this stuff going on. So, yeah. I think I just appreciate being reminded of that along the way.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
I mean, we all need those reminders. It's so hard to. It's so easy to slip into patterns that have existed for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the mindfulness of and the awareness is often the step that is that is absolutely needed in order to function better.
Mm-hmm.
But it can't be mindfulness and awareness by itself does not change anything.
Yeah. It's true. You're aware of a lot of stuff, and then you just know it's there. It doesn't mean it's not anything that changes.
Yeah.
On that note, I know we talked yesterday during the Clearness Committee about how seeking counseling might be a positive thing. Do you have, I'm sure I can find a list of resources at the church. I have a feeling most of them would be pastoral and potentially Methodist. Do you guys have your list of folks here?
Yeah, I can get a list from our social worker who has that list. Another opportunity for you, and you don't have to do this, but it's just if you want to delve more into the Bowen piece, the Bowen Center in DC does counseling.
Okay.
And they charge a sliding scale. I think even some of it can be done on like over Zoom or Skype or something like that.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that because I don't know for sure. But the Bowen Centers, you can go online and find it.
Okay.
And that may be helpful to your processing. But you might want somebody local too. That's you can see face to face.
Sure. Either. I'll definitely look into it. I think that'll be good. It's funny thinking about that and thinking about my family and the journey that's been. That I remember when we first thought about going to counseling, it was just like, all right, if we make it there, everything will be better. And it's the whole like, well, one, that person has to have the right relationship with you and blah. And two, they have to do something with that time instead of just showing up and hanging out in the room with the couch. So it's just funny, like, yeah, if I just get the Bowen Center, that'd be great. Definitely.
So my wife and I were in Richmond meeting with friends on Saturday, and we were having lunch at a Short Pump Mall. And we got there early and walked around, and Brenda was going into these places that have furniture, and they have the different setups, and it was really funny how many of the setups said, "This looks like a therapist office." And this looks exactly like a therapist office. I've seen this furniture.
In fact, this is my furniture. So, those moments I'm walking around, we're like, what does this say about the person who set up this space? What are they going through? What are they going the rain.
That's right.
Dad, stop it. Get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. We have we bought this furniture set that we have in our house from family friends of Katie's, and it's got like a 3-seat couch, a 2-seat couch, and like this awesome chair. We've never had space for this chair. Like it's always been stuck in some awkward spot.
Mm.
But it's funny right now because it's sitting out in the apartment and I've like been using it. I'm like, now I don't want it to go away. I'd rather it stay in the awkward spot and just have my awkward chair. Consider that when I feel weird.
Sean's timeout.
Exactly. This is where I go just to. Shh. Okay. We I forget what happened at church one day. I came home and with the Katie. I was like, I don't think I'm that awkward. I don't know why that would have happened. And she goes, oh no, you are. It's like we both are, but yeah, you are. Oh, well, truth telling in pregnancy, man. Okay. You gotta hear it, all right.
So, what do you think she means by that?
I feel like, jokes aside, this part of me, just the thinking about everything and the process, and I'm sure it leads to awkward moments along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I know I do awkward things every once in a while, just trying to be funny. That's all I think she really means.
Okay.
By it. Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is funny, with her, I can do that.
You can hear it as humor.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are certain people in my life that I can hear things as humor and just be fine. There are other folks, and I guess it's the nature of the relationship, but also how I perceive their ability, the way they choose to communicate to people, throws me off and makes me question a lot more, which I guess is normal for being, in the Methodist world. I feel like we're almost taught to feel like you've been somewhere for 4 months, that means you've been there forever. And that's not reality. Yeah, so it'll be 5 months next week that we've been here. And that's a speedy way of trying to get to know people and to
Sure.
be open to that.
Yeah, so how can you, I think that's significant insight. So how can you keep and maintain the idea that, it's early on and I'm still building relationships?
I think just saying it is probably really good. And it's funny because part of why I don't say it very often at work is because I feel like then it's just gonna be like, yeah, you're young, and like I don't want to hear that. Just like, again, I could be 50 and it would still be a new place and I'd only be here for 5 months. Yeah, I think just reminding myself that it takes a while to get to be settled in a place, and that it's okay to not quite feel settled yet. And
Yeah, and I think if you talk about it as practice language, I think it's part of every pastor's, should be a part of every pastor's practice to continue to learn about the place, about the people, and I've always, not always, but I enjoyed that part early on in each new ministry of the getting to know folks, hearing their stories, and kind of knowing what their relationship to God and to the church was, and how it's valuable to them, or what they're seeking, kind of things.
And that's the part of the job that I'm loving right now, is getting to know people that way. Like the stuff, have you heard of Pub Theology before?
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. Just there are people that came that I hadn't really ever talked to before, so getting to see them and hear what they had to say, and just seeing the genuine excitement of just like, we're doing something differently right now. That's really cool. And knowing that there are not many churches that I can do this, like have that happen in, and it be a successful, whatever barometer you want to use for success, as it was Thursday. And so I remember I was trying to tell Katie when we got home, I was like, it's funny because right now I feel like I'm trying to think of the next step. And I was going to say, and I just want to stop and just enjoy how tonight went. And I got to, I'm trying to, and she's like, just enjoy it. Like, walked away. And I was like, I was getting there, catching up. There's been a lot of good, and I'm trying to think about that more than I think about the anxiety, and regulate the moments where it goes from like, that was really good, now what are you gonna do, to just, that was really good,
And to be satisfied.
yeah.
I think that's a significant self-awareness. Yeah, really. So, I mean, it sounds like, with that you're beginning to take those little steps towards better functioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
Thanks. It's funny how it feels like things are getting worse when you're actually taking steps for them to get better. And it just, man, it's a hell of a nutshell the time to be in to be practicing all this stuff.
Well, it could also be a very rich time to be practicing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I've often thought, what would Bowen theory be like presented to somebody who isn't going through anything particularly anxious?
Mm.
Would it flip a switch in the person? Okay, I got to be anxious, or would it just be such a foreign concept to some people? But yeah, I don't know how you practice Bowen theory if you're like a Buddhist monk or something. But most people are Buddhist monks.
I was gonna say. Yeah, that's what we look at. Jesus need Bowen theory.
Well, Bowen didn't think that apparently that Jesus was rated very high on the self-differentiation scale.
Speaking of outliers and examples, he was confused about who he was. He said he was God.
Kept having to ask people, who am I?
Tell me who I am. Speaking of affirmation and clarity, gosh darn it, I'm just trying to be like Jesus over here. Oh, man. So, thank you also for helping get the preaching date set.
Sure. That's helpful to me too.
Just have that ready to go. And then I don't know if you saw in the last email I had the hospital visit right up finally in. So.
Yeah, so it's there. I
Yeah,
haven't
that's-
gotten to reading those things yet.
That part's fine with me. Just
All
wanna
right.
Make sure you got it.
Great.
So, we
All right.
at time.
Yeah,
we
I got to
are.
go to a meeting.
All right. I'm also cautiously excited